There are 3 types that I still haven't used in Pokemon Platinum solo challenges: Dark, Poison, and Ice. Since it's Halloween month, I can justify using an Ice type if it's paired with the Ghost type. So today I'm going to beat the game with Froslass. Tomorrow I'll be back to finish off the remaining 2 types though, so stay tuned for that video. As is the case in all of my Pokemon Platinum videos, I'm going to be starting as the pre-evolution. Today it's Snorunt, and it's really not very good. It has base 50 in all of its stats. If we consider all the Pokemon in Generation 4, this is well below the median stat value, which is 65, with the notable exception of attack, which is 70. There also really isn't an upside here. Snorunt has a medium fast growth rate, which is just fine. I'm running a hardy nature because that's what I do in all of these challenges, and my ability is going to be Inner Focus. I had the choice of running Ice Body, but then I would need Hail to gain back 1/16 of my health per turn. And Snorunt learns Hail at level 40. I think we're going to be a Froslass by that point, and in that case its only available ability is Snow Cloak. Speaking of evolution, this thing requires a Dawnstone to evolve, and I have to reach Pastoria City in order to get one. Before then, we are going to be stuck as a weak first stage Ice Pokemon. At least I have same type attack bonus moves. It starts with Powder Snow, Leer, and Double Team. Of course, evasion moves are banned in my challenges. See the rules in the description if you don't already know them. At level 10 it learns Bite, Icy Wind at 13, Headbutt at 19, skipping Protect, Ice Fang at level 28, Crunch at 31, Ice Shard at 37, which is important because it is a priority move, and finally Hail and Blizzard in the 40s. It's not a very diverse set: Ice, Normal, and Dark type moves, and basically the same thing continues through TM and HM, with 2 notable typings added: Water Pulse, so we at least have coverage against fire types, and also Shadow Ball, which is going to become a same type attack bonus move once I evolve. For today's challenge, the rival's going to be choosing Chimchar, giving him a type advantage against me, at least in the early game. Later on, things are a little bit more complicated because I'll have a Froslass which counters out his fighting type, but the fire type will still be super effective. After defeating the rival, I backtrack to Jubilife City to pick up the Quick Claw, just in case my speed is too low in the early game. I don't want to be getting hit first because my Pokemon's quite weak. I also do a lot of training on Route 203, defeating all of the trainers here to gain as much experience as is possible. Since I have a type disadvantage against Rourke, I think I'll need at least level 13 with Icy Wind in order to defeat him, but I would really like to shoot for level 15 if it's possible. Passing through Orberg Gate, I battle the trainers here, and I also fight the trainers inside of Orberg Mine. One guy has a Machop, but it's not really an issue because it's quite low leveled now. Snorunt gets to level 14 after all of this grinding, and I fight the 2 trainers inside the gym, which almost brings it up to 15. I think this is probably enough, so I equip the Quick Claw, and now it's time to face Rourke. I'm really not sure if this one is going to be possible. He leads with a Geodude. Luckily it has low special defense, so Powder Snow is able to get the one-shot. This gives me enough experience to level up to 15 over the next damage rounding threshold. Now Onix also has terrible special defense, so I figured I would one-shot it as well, but Snorunt just misses. Luckily, Rourke's Pokemon just sets up Stealth Rocks, and then Icy Wind hits, knocking it out. Now, something I'm rarely aware of is the fact that the Cranidos actually has less special defense when compared with the Onix. Still, it doesn't have the ground type, so it isn't weak to ice type moves, meaning Icy Wind only does half. Its Headbutt does about a third, but that's not enough, so unless I get really unlucky and miss, I am going to win here. Rourke chooses to use a potion, but it's not enough to save him because my next hit gets a critical hit, and with that Cranidos goes down. On my way back through Jubilife City, I want to mention the fact that I freeze the Stunky in this battle. This is a small advantage of running an ice type Pokemon, but there's no way to intentionally freeze because to this point in the series, there is no move that inflicts this status condition. It's always a secondary effect with a low probability. By the time I reach the Valley Windworks, my moveset is unchanged: Powder Snow, Leer, Icy Wind, and Bite. I'm level 18, so 1 level before Headbutt, but I figured this was good enough. I'm not going to outspeed the Perugly on Mars's team, so I might as well just try with this set. Zubat is first. I'm not worried about this thing, but Powder Snow does not do enough damage. I chose it just so I wouldn't miss, hoping that the super effective damage would be enough. Luckily my Snorunt doesn't get poisoned, and then Perugly comes in. The problem here is that my ice type moves just aren't doing enough damage, so I have my first reset against Commander Mars. I tried again, and during this fight I want to draw your attention to a frustrating statistic. When I lower the Perugly's speed by 1 stage, it is still 1 point faster than Snorunt. If you look at the last battle really carefully, I moved first even though it was was faster than me just because I have the quick claw. It doesn't print any text when it activates in Generation 4. I get further this time using Bite because I am faster once I lower its speed by 2 stages. However, still, even with a flinch, I am not able to knock it out. Things were really close, and in many scenarios like this, I'll get very stubborn, continuing the battle over and over again, hoping for the same luck. But I didn't do that here, and I think it's the right choice. I'm gonna train instead. Once I reach level 19, I can teach Headbutt in the place of Leer, and my speed stat has now increased to 31. So after a single Icy Wind, I will always outspeed and be able to use Headbutt to flinch the Perugly. This is the ticket that I need to win. I flinch turn 1, that's perfect. Turn 2, I don't get a flinch, but it just uses Scratch, doing about a third. Then I get a second flinch, and after that, Headbutt gets the knockout. Gardenia is coming up next, but even though I have a type advantage against her grass types, I still want to do training before the forest, just so I'm not under-leveled. Snorunt is quite bad, and I expect that it might have problems even when it has the type advantage. Inside the forest, I face the lady with the Pachirisu. Luckily, no problems here for Snorunt. Throughout the rest of the forest, I keep Cheryl around while I battle trainers, gaining more boosted experience. Once I've defeated all the grass type specialists in the gym, my Snorunt is level 25, so hopefully this is going to be enough for the second gym. Gardenia leads with Turtwig, the Pokemon that loves setting up Reflect. Icy Wind just barely doesn't get the knockout. Turtwig tries Razor Leaf, but it just misses. She uses a Super Potion, I do some damage with Headbutt, and then Knockout with Icy Wind. Next is Cherim. Now it's faster by 1 speed. It does about a quarter damage with Magical Leaf, and then my Icy Wind gets a critical hit, knocking it out in 1 turn. Alright, this battle is actually going really well so far. Roserade is last. Unfortunately, it's fast, it paralyzes Snorunt, and Icy Wind does more than half, but after a Citrus Berry, it's going to take 2 more turns to knock out. And that's a problem because the Roserade hits with Magical Leaf doing massive damage. I will only survive 1 of those. And while I am able to take it to red health, this ends up being a disadvantage because Gardenia uses a Super Potion, and that's that. My damage ranges against the Turtwig are sometimes KO rolls, as we see in the beginning of this next battle. Also against Cherim, I'm doing much more than half, and it just set up Safeguard, so I get another free KO here. Last is Roserade. This time it doesn't choose Stun Spore, that's perfect. I get a speed drop, hit with another Icy Wind, which does not KO, and then she uses Stun Spore. Now, I was certain she was about to use a Super Potion to heal, but for some reason she doesn't choose to, using Magical Leaf instead. Snorunt survives, Paralysis doesn't block my movement, and as a result I knock out her ace. Okay, I'm a little bit perplexed by that win, but I'll take it. Next is Jupiter. I can one-shot the Zubat here, but the Skuntank is quite good. It's taking about a quarter from Icy Wind, which is not very much. And with Night Slash dealing about a third each turn, I'm not able to survive. But maybe I can play this the same way that I did against the Perugly, lower the Skuntank's speed by 1 stage using Icy Wind, then prioritize Headbutt to get flinches. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Skuntank goes for Poison Gas, misses, and then I flinch, and those are the factors that allow me to beat Jupiter. Kinda lucky, but I will take it. Okay, time to backtrack to the old chateau to make my time against Fantina much easier. There is a rare candy in here, but more importantly, I can pick up the Dread Plate, which boosts the power of Dark-type moves by 20%, so that'll increase the damage that Bite does. Also, I can get Substitute, which is fantastic against Fantina's Pokemon. I explore Wayward Cave, grabbing a single rare candy, and then fight some trainers, leveling up to 28, where Snorunt learns Ice Fang in the place of Icy Wind. This move is a bit of a double-edged sword. It has 95% accuracy, but decent base power and good secondary effects, a chance to freeze and a chance to flinch. Now, when I was initially recording this video, I thought it was also going to be worse once they evolve into Froslass, because that thing seems like it should be a special attacker. But no, it's actually a balanced attacker. It has the same attack and the same special attack stat, which really breaks my brain. I don't know why, I just look at Froslass to see its design and I'm like, that's a special attacker. That's definitely not supposed to be like biting or punching people. Anyway, I head into Hearthome City, and before I go to the gym, there's one thing that I want to do. I stop by Amity Square because in here, if you do these little puzzles with these strange ruins, you can grab yourself the Spooky Plate, which boosts the power of Ghost type moves by 20%. This isn't immediately helpful, but it will be useful once I evolve into a Froslass. Okay, with that out of the way, I head into the gym, and now it's time for Fantina. When I first started doing Pokemon Platinum challenges, I really thought that Fantina was going to be fairly difficult on average, but now that I've learned about Substitute, she really isn't. Once I set up against the Dusclops, I am able to knock it out with 2 hits from Bite and move on to the remainder of her team. Haunter's first, it doesn't have good physical defenses and it can't break my Substitute, so I move on to the Miss Magius, still behind a Substitute. Shadow Ball does break it right away, but Bite does almost half. Maybe it's gonna 2-hit, and I really hope it will because Shadow Ball takes me down to orange health on the next turn. But Bite does come through with enough damage. So at my current level, I didn't even need the Dread Plate, I was just able to run the Quick Claw for that battle. Despite how simple Fantina just was, there is a tricky battle around Hearthome City. It's the rival just inside the gatehouse as I try to proceed with the playthrough. First of all, his Staravia has Intimidate. This feels like a battle out of Pokemon Emerald, and it's able to do a lot of damage to me with Endeavor before I take it down. I am left with 16 hit points, well, 19 after leveling up. I teach Crunch in the place of Bite, then Monferno comes in and it moves first, knocking Snorunt out. Maybe what I need is to set up Substitute against the Staravia, then knock it out, move on to the Monferno, but no, this is still not going to work. Headbutt isn't doing enough damage. I will have to 3-hit, and it can knock out my Substitute and do enough damage with its Fire-type moves. In Platinum, there are an overabundance of rare candies, so using some early on is not the worst thing in the world. I'm going to use 3 now to boost Snorunt up over the next damage rounding threshold before trying the battle again. Now, Headbutt looks like it does even less this time, about a quarter, which 4 hits against the Monferno is going to be tricky. I have 51 speed, which is exactly enough to move first against it on every turn, so there is the possibility to win this way, and I think I invested in that hope a little bit too much, losing 2 more times against the rival. Okay, so let's see, how many times would I need to flinch the Monferno to get a win? Well, once at least, then I can survive a Flame Wheel with more than half health in this situation if I don't set up Substitute. So that's one disadvantage of trying to set up my defenses. With just 1 more flinch, which is what I get, I am able to knock it out and move on to his final 2 Pokemon. There's a Weasel, which isn't very good, as well as a Roselia, which is pretty bad throughout the rest of the playthrough as well. So that's that. The rival's defeated. I hate my strategy. It was absolutely terrible. As I pass through Solaceon Town, I'll mention the fact that I'm not going to be picking up the Defog TM anymore. I think it just wastes time and it's not necessary. North of the town, I can grab some Moo Moo Milk, which are really great healing items. I haven't mentioned these before in my playthroughs, normally because I've evolved by this point. I think by this point in the runs, the starters were fully evolved, so yeah, Moo Moo Milk doesn't seem particularly useful then. But when you're a Snorunt, having some healing items in your bag is a useful thing. And I say all that to set up Dennis on the next route, because I go into the battle not healing, which was a major mistake because then the Weasel does a lot of damage, taking me down to 4 hit points before the Drifblim comes in. Now it has Aftermath, so if I make contact with it and knock it out, I'm going to take damage, so this is a loss. Luckily for me, I got the Moo Moo Milk so I can heal my health, defeat Dennis, and head into Veilstone City. I had to ask myself a question here. Am I really ready to face Maylene? She's a fighting type specialist, and I don't really have any moves that are particularly good against her. I run into a little bit of a scary situation against some of the fighting types inside her gym. This Machoke should have knocked me out, but it just doesn't. I get lucky with headbutts, and that convinced me that I need to do something else first. As I said before, in order to evolve, I need the Dawnstone, and there's one outside of Pastoria City, so I can head south from Veilstone and make it there. I'm just gonna have to walk all the way back, which will bleed some time to backtracking. But evolution really is gonna be a major advantage against Maylene, because the ghost typing makes fighting type moves irrelevant. Thing is, evolving is not gonna be that simple. There's Collector Douglas to defeat. He has the Generation 1 evolutions, and I'm on low health by the time this battle is starting. Then I get hit by Quick Attack from the Vaporeon. Snorunt does survive, but it needs 2 turns to knock out his water type, and as a result, I have a loss. I had the foresight to save before this battle, but I have run out of Moo Moo Milk because of the battle against the fighting type trainer, so I'm gonna have to backtrack to Veilstone City to heal, losing more time. This run is starting to feel not very good. I'm hoping that everything is gonna change when I evolve into a Froslass. I was convinced that that was gonna be the point where everything in this run would become easy. I was just as convinced as I was with Sudowoodo that the League was not gonna be a problem. So for anyone out there who didn't pick up on it, this is called foreshadowing. Being fully healed, I'm able to make it by Collector Douglas and then journey all the way to Pastoria City. I had to look up where to find this Dawnstone because it's a little bit out of the way and it's also a hidden item. So once you make it all the way through the city, then you find this little northern marsh section. You want to walk up through there over to the left and then pick up the Dawnstone on this tile. I of course use it right away to evolve my Snorunt into Froslass. This evolution really shakes up my base stats. 70 in HP, defense, and special defense, 80 in attack and special attack, and 110 in speed. That means the Quick Claw is definitely not useful anymore. Froslass' ability is Snow Cloak, which makes enemy moves less accurate whenever there's hail on the field. For now, let's go through Froslass' move pool because it's greatly expanded. I still get hail at level 40, but Blizzard has been pushed off to level 51. And then, additionally, I get access to Destiny Bond. If I want to use the move reminder, I can also teach a move like Ominous Wind to have a ghost damage dealing move right now. But that's not the most important thing. I'm gonna get Shadow Ball after I defeat Crasher Wake. Through TMNHM, there are a lot of new moves that Froslass can learn, but I think the highlights are Psychic, as well as the 3 electric type moves, Thunderbolt, Thunder, and Shockwave. I head back to Veilstone City and into the gym because I think now I have what it takes to beat Maylene. The ghost type is just going to be enough here. Meditite is up first, and it's not very good, so I decided to set up Substitute. I figured this would be safe, and my defense does live through a single Rock Tomb. With my speed not lowered, I can use Ice Fang and do a lot of damage, but not quite enough to get the knockout. She doesn't heal her lead, so Headbutt finishes it off on the next turn. Lucario's next. Okay, so I go for Ice Fang right away and get a freeze, which is perfect. She doesn't heal it, and over the course of the next 3 turns, I knock it out. That definitely made the fight easier because it was going to attack me with Metal Claw, which was super effective. The Machoke that's next breaks my Substitute, but it's a little bit too late, and with that, Maylene is defeated. Let's teleport ahead to the rival in Pastoria City since I've already described making it there. For this battle, I have taught Shockwave so that I have something that bypasses accuracy checks and is also super effective against water-type Pokemon. It'll be quite good against Wake's Gyarados specifically. It also helps against Staravia, which loves setting up Double Team. I level up to 40 and have the chance to learn Hail, but I'm gonna say no to it for now, keeping my current set. Weasel's next, Shockwave gets the 1 hit, and then Monferno comes in. Shockwave is able to do almost half, and while it is going to take me 3 turns to knock it out, the fact that I have a substitute in place is what allows me to live. All that's left is Roselia, and of course, Ice Fang is super effective. Okay, time for Crasher Wake. Generally, this one is kind of difficult. His lead is Gyarados, and right away my attack stat gets dropped, so Ice Fang isn't going to do very well. I attempt to set up my substitute, but it gets broken right away by Bite, so that's not very good. And making matters even worse, when I use Shockwave for 4 times damage, it doesn't do enough. Wake uses a Hyper Potion. This is actually good for me because then I can do more damage, letting the Shell Bell heal more health. By the time the Quagsire comes in, I'm just under half, and I'm doing pathetic damage against this Water Ground type, so yeah, this is going to be a loss. I need to do something else. I fight one more trainer in the gym, leveling up to 42, and then I use Rare Candies, boosting Froslass up to level 46. This is over 2 damage rounding thresholds compared to the previous battle, so I think Shockwave should one-hit the Gyarados now, and I was right, it does. Next is Quagsire, and Ice Fang gets a massive critical hit. Like, last time it did about a quarter, this time it one-shots. By the way, the discrepancy in damage here from the last fight where I was doing like a quarter, and this case where it one-shots, is all because I was bypassing the detrimental stat change from Intimidate. Last is Floatzel. I go for Shockwave. It does way more than half, and while Crunch is super effective, it doesn't do half, so Wake is defeated. With him out of the way, I can now explore the Foggy route. Notably here, Shockwave is an advantage to me. All the opponent Pokemon have their accuracy debuffed, and I'm just going to bypass all accuracy checks, hitting with consistency. I'm also able to use the bike to go across these, like, I don't know what they are. They're logs? I would never want to bike on this in real life. I am very risk averse when it comes to physical activities, but today I brave the danger and grab the TM for Shadow Ball, which I teach right away in the place of Ice Fang. Hang on to that. That's a choice. I will be talking about it very soon. Cyrus is up next. I don't have great moves against his team. I establish my substitute, and then Shadow Ball slowly knocks out the Sneasel. Next is Murkrow. Shockwave is okay here. It takes 2 hits. Little unfortunate. There's a Golbat. Once again, 2 hits from Shockwave. So, not the best fight, but also not that difficult. Now that I have Surf, I can grab a lot of important items. First is heading back by the Valley Windworks so I can grab the TM for Thunderbolt. I'm not going to use it right away, but it might be useful later on. Also in Floroma Meadow, I can pick up a PP up as well as a rare candy. I head back to Veilstone City to sell a bunch of items. I'm wanting to accumulate money so that later I can buy something from the game corner. Just so everyone knows, the TMs for Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, and Psychic are all very expensive. They all all cost 10,000 coins or 200,000 Poké Dollars. I haven't saved up enough yet, so I'll have to come back here to buy something later. The next major battle is the rival in Canalave City. I establish Substitute and then almost one-shot the Staraptor with Shockwave. Maybe I should have taught Thunderbolt by this point. You might be wondering why I'm trying to buy something from the game corner when these TMs are just available through regular play, and the reason is I want to be able to replace the TMs and then teach them again so that I have a little bit more moveset flexibility if possible. Until I'm sure I can afford one of those TMs in the near future, I don't want to teach something like Thunderbolt and then have to get rid of it. I wasn't sure if the Hail Blizzard strategy was going to pay off, so I want a way to get back to a regular-ish moveset quickly if I want to. Because of Shockwave, I'm just barely not one-shotting things in this fight. That's okay though, I make it by the Infernape, and the Heracross does deal a lot of damage, but not enough to knock me out. And as I've said before, the Roserade is typically not very good, and that is exactly the case here. It just sets up Toxic Spikes and I knock it out on turn 2. Okay, so I go back to the move reminder because I'm like, I untaught Ice Fang, I need to get that move back, but no, Froslass does not learn Ice Fang through level up. There's a piece of misinformation that I've seen passed around sometimes in the Pokemon community, which is if you evolve from the pre-evolution, then you have access to those level up moves too through the move reminder. That is not the case. I cannot learn Ice Fang again. My only other option for an accurate Ice type move at this point in the game is the Ice Beam TM through the game corner, because I don't yet have access to Rock Climb where you can pick up the free Ice Beam TM. But as I said before, I don't have the TM to buy it, so I am stuck without an Ice type damage dealing move. At least until I reach level 51 and get access to Blizzard, which is only 1.5 levels away. For now, I'm going to head into the next gym and face the trainers here without an ice move, which was a bit concerning to me because these people are generally extremely strong, much stronger than Byron himself. The first guy is Black Belt Ricky, he has a Steelix. I was worried about defeating it without an ice type move, but luckily Shadow Ball does half and I knock it out in 2 turns. Next is Worker Gary. He's more annoying than anything else because he just has a single Magnemite. Also, you're probably going to hear my orange cat Churro in the background of some of this voiceover because he decided to be very noisy while I was recording. The next trainer in the gym is Ace Trainer Caesar, and he is terrifying. Shadow Ball is not doing half to the Scissor, Metal Claw is doing a lot of damage, and after only 2 hits, I faint. I did not save before this battle, which is a mistake. I need to save every time in front of Caesar. He causes so many resets. In this case though, I think blacking out is the better choice so I don't lose any progress. Instead of trying to fight him again right away, I go back to the move reminder and teach Hail in the place of Shockwave. Then I do some optional training west of Pastoria City to level up to 51 so that I can learn Blizzard. I teach it in the place of Crunch, and this is another deletion that I will not be able to reteach with the move reminder. Back to face Caesar. Now the Scissor goes down to a single Blizzard followed by a Shadow Ball. From there, there's one more usual suspect in the gym who causes issues, Brianna with her 3 Bronzor. In this case though, I have Shadow Ball, which is neutral against these Steel Psychic types. Okay, with her out of the way, the difficult trainers in the gym are defeated, and usually Byron is easier than everyone else I have faced to this point. But today, things are a little bit different. His first Pokemon is Magneton. I decided to set up my Substitute because I like to block Metal Sound on the first turn. This works out for me and I establish Hail. On the next turn I use Blizzard, doing massive damage and get hit by a Metal Sound, having my special defense lowered by 2 stages. Byron uses a healing item, and then I use 2 Shadow Balls to knock out his lead. And that's when Bastiodon comes in, and I realize that Ice-type moves are not super effective against Rock-type Pokemon. Plus the Bastiodon has decently high special defense, meaning it only takes a third from my Blizzard. Also, its Metal Burst deals about a third to Froslass. I just don't have the damage output to knock it out, so I have a reset to Byron, which doesn't feel very good. I've had to solve other problems with rare candies, so I only have 3 available to me right now. Using them brings me up over 2 damage rounding thresholds to level 55. I continue trying to play the start of the fight the same way, but it's just not working out very well for me. If I have my special defense lowered, then the Bastiodon is able to do a lot of damage, and things are not looking good because beyond that is Steelix, which has Flash Cannon. But Froslass doesn't even make it there because Byron's Ace is too much. I tried to just attack the Magneton and not set up, but this also does not go well. Then I am left on 1 hit point before the Bastiodon comes in, so that is a 3rd reset to Byron. This is definitely one of the worst performances I've ever had against him. I didn't expect it to be with Froslass. When I sat down to play this Pokemon, I was honestly expecting it to do quite well, not to lose for a 4th time against Byron. So what does it take to win? Well, I knock out the Magneton right away without taking any damage. I do have my special defense lowered, but because I'm on full health, the Bastiodon goes for Iron Defense, which is not helpful, and then through spamming Blizzard, I'm able to just barely take it out, surviving on orange health. I need to be able to one-hit the Steelix, and Blizzard is strong enough to do it. Okay, so that was a really rough battle. I was hoping that things would get easier. Saturn is quite simple, but Mars, who follows, gets a little bit scary. The final Perugly does no feint attack, which is super effective. In this case, though, it doesn't do enough damage, and I'm able to just barely two-hit. The next destination is Snowpoint City, so I need to travel through Mount Coronet. Here, I grab a rare candy, and I also am able to pick up the Never Melt Ice, which is going to boost the damage of Ice-type moves. There's a blizzarding section, but I already have the spooky plate, so I don't need to pick up the ice plate or the spell tag. Once arriving in Snowpoint City, I grab one more rare candy, and then I head into the gym to face Candice. Sneasel is up first, and things do not get started well. Shadow Ball does less than half, and then I try Blizzard, but it misses. I get hit one more time, taken down to orange health before I knock out her lead. Next is Froslass. So this one is a foregone conclusion. Shadow Ball does more than enough damage to completely destroy it. But I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to one-shot the following Piloswine and Abomasnow. Luckily, I crit the first of these two, then Abomasnow comes in, and Snow Warning sets up the snow, which actually helps me because I have Snow Cloak. I don't have enough damage with Blizzard to one-shot, and the grass type uses Wood Hammer. Luckily, I survive with 3 hit points, and that's the victory over Candice. Okay, so now that I can use Rock Climb outside of battle, after talking to Jupiter, then I can climb up this face and walk to the east, where I can pick up the TM for Ice Beam. While I do battle with Cyrus in the Veilstone building, I want to talk about the Hail Blizzard strategy. It seems like there's a lot of synergy here, but having to rely on constantly resetting Hail is just not very nice. I found this in Generation 3 as well with Sun and Rain strategies. It just never feels like the ideal play in a solo challenge. If I had the option of sending in an Abomasnow first, that would improve things because then the snow would be on the field until a different weather effect overwrote it, but that's not something that I have available to me. I am holding on to Substitute right now, and I think that's a mistake. It's just dead weight on my set right now, and I could have something else like Thunderbolt for better coverage. All of that said, the game is going to force me away from using this strategy in the very near future. Not against Saturn though, she's quite straightforward, although the battle against the 2 commanders at the top of Mount Coronet proves to be a bit of a problem. Initially I thought this battle wasn't going to be a problem and I would eventually just cut it from most playthroughs, but the more I play these games, the more I think I need to comment on it. First of all, you can only see one of their teams on the right hand side of the screen. I'm going to eventually patch the software so that you can see both of their teams and have those update in real time. I just haven't optimized for double battles yet because normally they're not a major part of solo runs. The issue here is that so many of the enemy Pokemon have moves that are super effective against Froslass. For example, on Commander Mars's team, the Bronzor has Gyro Ball, the Golbat has Bite, and the Perugly has Shadow Claw. Not to mention the Skuntank, which has Night Slash and can do massive damage with it. I had 2 quick resets here and then I resigned myself to the fact that I should be using rare candies. I've said before, there are a lot of these in Pokemon Platinum, so since the last time we checked in, I have collected a total of 10. This boosts Froslass all the way up to level 68, and then I attempt the battle again, and still I have another loss. Blizzard hits both opposing Pokemon, and I thought that was going to carry me through this battle, but it really doesn't. I am relying more on which Pokemon the Munchlax targets and helps me to knock out. I'm hoping that it's going to be the Pokemon that'll do a lot of damage to Froslass, and I'm also hoping that the normal type absorbs a lot of hits. Eventually I get into somewhat of an ideal situation where both of their aces are on the field. This way Blizzard one-shots the Skuntank and I'm able to knock out the Perugly alongside it. From there only one Golbat remains and I knock it out too. Okay, time for the Distortion World. I do want to say, this is one of the coolest aesthetic locations in the game, but I really wish there was something more to do here. If I didn't take timing these playthroughs so seriously, I would definitely consider removing this region from the game to save myself a bit of time. Really, it's just pushing a bunch of rocks around and having annoying dialogue for like 5 minutes, and then finally I make it to Cyrus. This is typically one of the most difficult fights in playthroughs, so I need to prepare. I'm going to teach Thunderbolt in the place of Hail so that I can hit the Gyarados for 4 times damage, and then Ice Beam in the place of Blizzard because I no longer have Weather. Alright, so let's talk about the problems Froslass has in this battle. Number 1, Houndoom is first. It's a Fire Dark type, basically perfectly countering my type pairing. I can 2-shot it with Thunderbolt, but it deals massive damage with Flamethrower, leaving me just above half health once the Honchkrow comes in. Ice Beam one-shots it, and then Weavile is next, and I don't really have a good solution here. As a Dark type with Night Slash, it can do massive damage. Luckily, not quite half, but I'm not doing enough to knock it out fast enough, so Froslass goes down. Also, in the last fight, Houndoom rolled bad damage with Flamethrower. Sometimes it does do more than half. This leaves Froslass in an even worse position for the Weavile, so I have another quick loss. I switched my item for the next fight, holding the Shell Bell to recover some health. This time Houndoom goes for Will-O-Wisp. It's good to know that it can do this, and overall I think it's probably a better thing than Flamethrower. I'm not using any physical moves after all. But the chip damage is annoying. It's sort of being countered out by the Shell Bell. I was hoping I would just barely squeeze by the Weavile, but I am still not able to. I should mention here that every time I reset, I have not saved over teaching Thunderbolt and Ice Beam, so I have a chance to completely reconfigure my moveset at the cost of real time. I'm going to teach Return in the place of Hail and Thunderbolt in the place of Blizzard because I don't think Ice Beam is serving that much utility during this battle. I also don't want Froslass to forget Shadow Ball because there's no way to get it back. With the physical move, I was really surprised it one-shots the Houndoom. That is a major improvement. Thunderbolt takes care of the Haunch Crow, then Return is able to two-hit the Weavile, surviving with more than half health. Crobat is next. Thunderbolt deals massive damage, and it actually comes through for me. So switching things up on my moveset gives me the advantage I need to completely stomp Cyrus. I wish I had figured this one out a little bit quicker and didn't have so many resets. Inside Sunyshore City, I pick up the Zap Plate, which will be useful to boost the damage of Thunderbolt if I need it, and believe me, I'm going to. Then I take on Volkner, and he doesn't deserve an introduction. He is completely incompetent. I set up Substitute, and while it is taking more than one turn to knock out most of his Pokemon, he's not breaking my defenses, and by the time I make it to the Raichu, I can just attack. Okay, so passing through Victory Road, let's reflect on Froslass's current time. 2 hours and 33 minutes. It looks like Froslass is set for about a 2 hours and 45 minute finish if I make it through Victory Road in the Elite Four without too many problems. And overall, that's usually how things play out in the late game. There was one instance where I got walled during the Elite Four, but generally that doesn't happen because I have so many rare candies available to me. Froslass is very overleveled, so I was confident with it. And then this fight against Ace Trainer Mariah, who has Blissey, plays out. The first Pokemon is not a problem. The problem is actually the Magnezone, which paralyzes me, and I end up being taken down to red health. Luckily, paralysis doesn't prevent my attack, and I do just barely pull through. Okay, so with Victory Road finished off, now I have to head into the Pokemon League and face the rival for one last time. There are a total of 6 trainers left, and usually Pokemon sweep through them fairly quickly, unless you're a terrible type like Sudowoodo. The rival is a good example of how easy things have become. I can set up Substitute on the Staraptor, one-shot with Ice Beam, Thunderbolt takes care of the Floatzel, Shadow Ball takes care of the Infernape, although it does take 2 hits. Then Roserade goes down to Ice Beam, Heracross tries to get some damage in, and it's fairly effective at it, but overall, not a threat. So as expected, Froslass stomped the rival. Now, let's quickly clean up the Elite Four and clock in with her final time. Aaron is up first. He has a lot of flying types, so Ice Beam is really good here. I one-shot the Yanmega. Next is Scissor. It does no Night Slash, but I can two-hit. Vespiquen goes down to a single Ice Beam. Heracross once again just barely survives. That seems to be how this thing plays out when using a Froslass. He uses a healing item on it, delaying me a little bit, and then Drapion comes in. If there is a Pokemon on his team best suited to taking out Froslass, this is it. Also, it's going to be the Pokemon I'm playing tomorrow in a solo run. In this case though, Ice Beam just does massive damage, and Drapion faints. Okay, Bertha's next. I'm an Ice type. Normally she's the most difficult of the Elite Four, but today she's a pushover. And that leads to Flint. I figured here the fact that I am level 75 and the Houndoom is level 52 would give Froslass all of the advantages it needs. First turn I go for Shadow Ball so that she doesn't use a healing item, the Houndoom sets up Sunny Day, and then I knock it out with Thunderbolt. Flareon's next, I go for Shadow Ball, it does half, and then the Fire type hits me with Overheat, and it knocks Froslass out in a single turn. Don't worry, like I've said before, the Elite Four in Pokemon Platinum are pushovers. I can just use rare candies, level up to 79, and then try Flint again. This should be more than enough. The Houndoom doesn't cause problems, and yeah, then again, the Flareon does massive damage with Overheat. This time it's not able to one-hit, but I'm in a bad position for the following Rapidash, and I just don't have good damage against it. It uses Bounce, and Froslass faints. I really didn't want to black out and lose a lot of time backtracking for a move like Water Pulse, so I kept trying this fight, and I lose one more time. Now, 2 more times, and then I decided that yes, I should block out. I have to backtrack to Jubilife City. I'm gonna have to walk all the way north to the Ravaged Path, and then smash this little rock over by where the Rock Tomb TM is, and use Surf to head all the way to the northern part of this cave where the Water Pulse TM is hidden. To this point in my Pokemon Platinum series, I have never used this move, but it seems like the best option that I have available to me with Froslass. I'm also now going to head back to the game corner and finally use all the coins that I've accumulated during this run to buy myself another Ice Beam TM. This way I can get rid of the Ice type move, but still have it when I'm facing Cynthia's Garchomp. Okay, so let's sweep through the Elite Four again. I'm going to have no problems here, right? No, wrong. I make it to Aaron's Heracross, which as I've said is always surviving and attacking once. It just barely survives again, hits Stone Edge, doing massive damage with a critical hit, and Froslass faints. So I blacked out again, had to come back and then defeat Aaron. Bertha is still easy, and then before Flint I teach Water Pulse in the place of Ice Beam. I should have anticipated that he was going to be a problem and taught this move from the start, but what I didn't anticipate is the fact that he's going to use Sunny Day, and now my water move is doing less damage. So even though I have something that's super effective, it's just not very good. Also, we should compare effective powers. Shadow Ball is the same amount of damage as Water Pulse, so the only advantage to using the water move is hopefully I'll get confusion against his fire types. By this point in the run, frustration had set in, much in the way it did with Sudowoodo. I put my head down, got really stubborn, and kept trying to beat Flint. I was hoping there was going to be some opening, like a critical hit, a confusion, or maybe his Pokemon misses a move like Overheat. It just isn't working out for me though. I'm not even making it past his first few Pokemon. So eventually I once again decide to black out because there's one more move that I can pick up that will help me here. On the route just prior to Victory Road, if you surf over through this little rock maze, this item ball contains the TM for Rain Dance. I make it back to Flint, fumble around, forgetting to teach Rain Dance and have another quick loss, but then by teaching this move in the place of Substitute, I now have a way to both cut the power of fire type moves and to increase the power of Water Pulse. I can also remove Sunny Day whenever he sets it up, so this is the perfect utility. And as you would expect, it makes Flint quite trivial, so finally at long last the fire type specialist is defeated, and I can move on to the psychic type specialist Lucian. I'm using the Spooky Plate here. I still have Shadow Ball. Yeah, he's really simple as you would expect. Luckily no Sudowoodo-esque situations here. Before the champion, I teach Ice Beam in the place of Rain Dance, and now I'm ready for the final battle. Cynthia leads with Spiritomb. Just to reflect on this run, things have been pretty rough. I was not expecting a time over 3 hours, but Flint caused major setbacks, so I'm hoping that I can make it by Cynthia on my first attempt. That said, the Spiritomb is actually a scary lead in this case, because Shadow Ball does about a third to my Froslass, I think a little bit more. She heals it, but I get a critical hit, knocking it out on the next turn, and from there I like my odds a little bit more. Lucario's next. It doesn't know a steel move, but it does have Stone Edge. The advantage of using a rock type move is that it can miss, and that's exactly what happens, allowing me to finish it in 2 turns with Thunderbolt. Garchomp comes out next, but Ice Beam quickly dispatches it. Then Milotic comes in, and Thunderbolt gets a critical hit. Okay, all the luck is converging to give me relief to my suffering. Togekiss goes down to an Ice Beam, and Roserade is a pathetic final Pokemon. Froslass clocks in with a final time of 3 hours, 9 minutes, and 2 seconds. I don't actually have the reset count while I'm recording this audio because we have to do some patching in post. My reset counter got reset when I did my evolution, so it's not correct on the original footage. You'll see the resets and the blackout count on screen right now. My level is 84 and the game time is 9 hours and 6 minutes. Okay, let's rank Froslass. Also, thanks to everyone who supports me on YouTube or through Patreon. Its time and playthrough were a lot more similar to Sudowoodo than I would have liked. That said, it didn't go over the 3 hour and 15 mark, so today it's going to be ranked in the D tier. It lost to Infernape by about 3 minutes, but when I redo the fire type, it is going to have a much faster time. The same thing can be said for Empoleon. Both Froslass and it have very comparable times right now, but the fact the water type gets a move like Swords Dance is going to make it significantly outperform in the future. I think a far more comparable run to Froslass is Lopunny. Even then, it only had 12 faults total, which is many less than Froslass. Maybe I just played badly with this thing. I think that that's probably the case. It was my first ice type in the game. I look forward to eventually coming back and optimizing its results. For now, if you want to see how Lopunny did, check out this video. If you made it this far, you're incredible. I'll see you in my next one.